welcome to another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. My name is Rob McCallum, aka Rob McZob, and I am one of your hosts for this evening. We have a very exciting show tonight. Tonight, we're talking turtles, and we got a very special guest who just happens to be the author of a brand new book on all things turtles. We've got some big news to share. We've got lots happening. But before we dive into any of it, I've got to bring on the bebop to my rocksteady, the April O'Neil to our Channel 6 atmosphere here, Mr. Jay Bartlett. Jay, how are you doing, brother?
I'm April, right? I'm not. I'm not playing if I'm not April.
So that means I've got to be Vernon then? Is that how that works?
I think you know that answer already. What's up, buddy?
Oh, so much, Jay. We have been teasing a lot of info as of late for all things happening action figure adventure. And I got to tell you, it's been fun having a lot of guests on the Jay and Rob Toy Show.
It is, and I know you love your teasers. You're very good at doing that. So I've had a lot of people, what's up? What's the news? What's the news? And I know better. I've done this for 10 years almost now. I know that it's almost like being on a Star Wars set. It's like, you can't say anything. I can't say anything. I want to, but the time will come.
Well, the time is almost upon us for us to say something. Now, it's been a bit of a toss-up. Do we say something tonight on the Jay and Rob Toy Show? Exclusive action figure adventure news. Of course, there's series that has been exclusively on Jinx Esports TV on Super Channel in Canada. Or do we hold off and make people wait just one more week for the big, exciting news?
Whatever I say is going to be wrong, so why don't you just answer that question? I think
that is correct.
I think we should do it tonight. We'll hold out for another week.
I'm going to hold out for at least one more week.
There you go.
One more week. Here's the thing. If we announce something tonight, I don't have all the pertinent details. If we wait a week, we'll have more to share.
So why bring it up?
Quality, not quantity.
Why do you bring it up?
Because this is what we call promotion, Jay. This is how it's done.
This is what you call being irritating to people. It's
No. You know what? We don't have to live in an instant gratification world anymore. People can wait one more week for the next little bit. It's okay.
Oh, dude, listen, I'm the master of waiting. Okay, so I know how to wait. I know how to wait. Let's keep going.
I want to give a shout out to some people that are watching, of course, our strong following. We've got Nathan in the chat who's saying, what's up? Our good friend Lisa, who always hangs out, gives us the horns and the hearts, and she's all over our Instagram. We appreciate your love, Lisa. That's awesome. We're getting some love on Twitch. This is awesome. What's up, Playoff Pressure? Tommy, Toy Lines, how you doing? I love your podcast, People of Eternia. If you guys want to hear some behind-the-scenes tales on everything that went into making Masters, what it is, check out People of Eternia. Nathan is saying, let's wait for the news. We've got one vote to wait for the big news.
Okay, well, okay. I mean, I already know the big news, so I'm okay to wait another week, I suppose. I'll wait. Let's see how much time we have left.
Okay, let's get to this week's icebreaker, okay? It's a turtle-themed episode. We've been waiting a while to do turtles on the Jay and Rob Toy Show. We've talked about it here and there with some of the newer releases, but we've never kind of dedicated a whole episode. And then our guest tonight, Chris Fawcett, has just put out a book, Rad Plastic, and we're gonna talk a lot about this book very soon. Cool. And I should tell you that this thing weighs a ton. I may have a class action lawsuit against Chris for the damage it takes on my wrist to lift this hulking 400-page book.
Yeah, that's one I'm definitely going to check out. We've been talking about it, and I'm super excited. I'm super excited to talk to Chris. Yeah.
Icebreaker. What is the craziest thing that you remember from the turtle line?
Oh,
crazy, however you want to define it. I mean, something that's just, batshit out there, or something that was just like, wow, that's a really cool but crazy idea. Because when it comes to TMNT, I think it was a pretty inventive line in terms of toys and action figures. So what is something that stands out as crazy cool, crazy nuts? What do you think?
We've talked about this before, and I think it was actually on one of our first episodes. The first thing that pops out of my mind is something like just out there. was how they almost started to turn the turtles into like what Funko is doing with Pops, where it was the different brands were being put on the four turtles. Example, the Star Trek turtles. Some of my least favorite turtles, but the craziest one, and I don't know the official name because it just I don't know. Was it Farmer Michelangelo? Like
Yeah, I
or
think it was.
Farmer Don, or
Yeah,
maybe they were all farmers. I don't know, but I was just
yeah,
like, I mean, you and I were out of actually buying toys at that time for that brief period of like 5 to 7 years. And
yeah.
during that time, a lot of wacky stuff came out for Turtles, and that was one. I was just like, what are they doing? Um, I mean, it worked because Turtles has always gone up, plateaued, and then just dropped into nowhere. Then they reinvent themselves and they come back, and that's just kind of how they've always been. But I think the farmer one was definitely on the down, going down there.
I'm going to say something from the other side, something that I thought was crazy cool as a kid, and I can't remember the name of it. I guarantee it's in this book. It was in one of the earlier waves too, and it was one of the villains kind of contraptions where if the turtle stood underneath it, this spider-like claw thing would come down and pick it up, and he couldn't move, and he was all trapped in it. And I just remember like the cranks that you would have to do, and you could actually clutch the turtles and bring them up. I don't know why I thought it was so cool as a kid, because it's a pretty simple mechanism. It's
Yeah,
a lot of play features and play sets, where you capture the one guy in the enemy base and then you can drop him into a trap door or something. But for some reason, the scale that the turtles were in, that chunky 4 inches, 4.5 inches size, and to have something grasp it, and because inventions were such a huge through line for that show between what Shredder was creating, what Baxter Stockman was creating, it just fits so well, and I felt like I could really recreate that play pattern or that scene that was in the
yeah,
show, and I just thought, oh man, that feels like it's right from the cartoon, and I just again crazy cool.
yeah. I would agree with you there. That some of their vehicles are so inventive and just wacky because a lot of this stuff is made from like the lore of the turtles. A lot of the stuff's made from garbage, right? It's made from trash and just things that they find in the sewer, and because they gotta keep secret and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of the turtle blimp is great. The turtle van,
Oh,
the
turtle
skateboard, the
blimp.
skateboard with the fan on the back.
The foot ski, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of the early stuff. I think it's just wicked.
Yeah. I mean, even though it got wacky, like you said, it seemed to be grounded in that turtle lore, like of the world, of the universe. And I think that's when it becomes successful, because you can't always pull something from a cartoon or a movie and have it translate well. So if you're going to create something, it better feel like it's of the world. So kudos on those two examples. I think those were good ones. We're getting some more chatter here. White Mike is saying hello to all. Tommy's saying thank you so much for plugging People of Eternia. Danny, another vote, saying we can wait. It'll give him time to eat these tacos. And Scott saying Rad Plastic looks really cool. And again, we're going to get to that starting right now. Let's talk about our guest, Mr. Chris Fawcett. This guy has been doing toys for a long time, and I crossed his path somewhat as a voyeuristic kind of observer in the world of Facebook. He I think he's the admin of one of the prototype pages for TMNT, and he just seemed to have a lot of information going on and sharing a lot of pictures and chiming in with info on the legitimacy of different versions of prototype figures. Is this a test shot? Is this a hard shot? Talking about different pieces and whatnot. And I just like sitting back and sometimes in these high profile collector communities where they're either very specific niche stuff and just like learning and just watching everything that comes out.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks ago, I see a lot of chatter pick up about this book, Rad Plastic. Now, I remember when this went on pre-order not that long ago, and I thought, oh, I just can't swing it right now because, we were making a TV show. And as much as I like to keep up with the culture, I know something like a book isn't going to go away anytime soon. So I thought, okay, when it's out and available, I am picking this up because I know it covers a lot of prototype material and process stuff. I love process. Anything from sketches and artwork and molds that show how it goes from idea to finished product. I am all over that stuff. So Chris' path crosses with mine. People are talking about the book. He says they're starting to ship. we need a guest for the show. I say, Chris, would you come on our show and talk about the book? But I need a copy of the book because I want to read it and go through it before you come on. And he says, Rob, I don't know you at all, but we're going to make this happen. I'm paraphrasing, but he was kind enough to make sure that we got the book up in Canada in time for the show. Let me bring on Mr. Chris Fawcett. There he is on the stream. Chris, how are you doing? And welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing well down here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina. We are
Nice.
big fans of North Carolina. We took a trip there as part of Action Figure Adventure to Raleigh. We have designs to return to that part. So
well,
hopefully
if you're ever in town, feel free to let me know and stop on by.
You got it. We're you're part of the family now, like we tend to say to people that kind of connect with us. So we will stop on by. Another reason to go down there. It's only a 13-hour car ride. We can do that.
Yeah, no problem.
Do that in like one sitting.
I've gone way farther than that for toys. So I'm sure you guys have.
Hey.
Oh yeah.
That's the way it goes. If you're gonna go for a long car ride of something, you're gonna go on a trek. It might as well be the stuff you love. And I can only imagine the journey that this massive tome. First of all, when it arrived, I thought it was like the 10 Commandments had shipped to my door. My wife said, "What kind of stone tablet have you ordered now?" I said, "Oh, I'm sure it's something to do with toys because it's heavy." And when I opened it, and you packed it very well, by the way, the bubble wrap, the peanuts, I thought, here we go. Now I have my whole evening set, and I can't wait to dig into it. But how did the journey begin for you for Rad Plastic? And what can you tell people about it that may not have heard of it yet?
Well, do you want the long version or the short version of how it started?
Well, let's start short and go long. We've
Okay,
got tons of time. We've got lots of questions.
Okay, the short version is so I was always really a Star Wars collector. I'm a Star Wars kid. You know, that was my thing as a child, those toys. And so I got into the prototypes and interested in that kind of stuff really for a couple reasons. Number one, I just thought that the artistry was great. You know, like not specifically Star Wars, but the idea of the artistry of, you know, a drawing or a sketch or a sculpt or, you know, things like that, hand painted stuff. It's like these guys are really artists. It's like pop art, you know. And so I had been looking around for stuff in that realm of the Star Wars, and I just had. And also, I'm a former toy designer. So I used to live in Ohio, which is kind of a mecca for toys. It was, you know, Kenner was in Cincinnati. The Little Tykes company was very near me, near Akron, Ohio. And not too far away in Buffalo was Fisher Price. So there was quite a lot of toy activity in and around Ohio. So I was very interested in for that reasons too, because, you know, I worked on the toys and it was interesting to see what the designers, you know, 20 years prior to me, how they did it and how it was different. So, so I was looking for this stuff for Star Wars and just happened to stumble across and, you know, made some connections into some people who had family and friends that did work for Playmates. And that just led to, you know, finding a couple really great treasure troves of interesting stuff. And I wasn't planning to write a book when I started or when I found some of the first things I found. But as I dug in more and more, and those people gave me contacts to other people, and those people gave me contacts, and it sort of spider webs out, and you know, call people and you learn and you visit. It wasn't very long into it, maybe 6 or 8 months, that I realized there was plenty of material here for a full blown book. And so I just decided that, well, I needed to do that because I don't think there was ever been another toy line really that sort of one person was sort of the genesis of finding all this material and could take all the photos. And I really didn't have to contact any other collectors or beg them for pictures or, you know, it was just the stuff I was finding because none of these people had been talked to before. And so they had great stories and really interesting items. And, you know, I took my camera all over and just, I was like, there's so much here. I just felt like I had to do it.
That's awesome.
Well, you picked a really small and contained toy line to do that with. I'm glad the challenge wasn't daunting at all, and it wasn't like a line that had been around for over a decade or anything like that. It must have been actually a pretty easy feat for you to kind of make just a couple stops, maybe a quick cup of coffee, take a few pictures, call it a day. Yeah. How many people did you talk to?
It was well over 100. And I probably visited in person maybe half that many. I have to go back and count. It was, if I had to guess, I'd say I'd probably talked to 120, 130 people and probably visited 50, maybe 60. So, yeah, it was 3 years. The first incident that sort of started me down this path was September of 2017. So that was the day where I first got a hold of somebody and found some really interesting things. And I'm like, well, maybe this could be a book. And so it's been 3+ years of doing all this research and traveling all over. And then about the last year or so has been heavy on writing and design, although I kept, shoving in stuff at the last minute I'd find, much to my designer's chagrin. It's like, I think we literally shoved in the last pictures maybe like 2 weeks before the book went to print. I was still editing a page. I'm like, we got to add this new page. He's like, oh. So, but I was going to say,
and we should give him some credit. Chance Sanderson is the designer of this. And anytime you're doing a book that is 400 pages, I think is the count on, or 396 or something like that. That is not a small undertaking. Why did you cap it at 400? How come this isn't 800? Are we going to get a volume 2? I mean, is 400 really enough? Is it too little? Where did that number come from? Was it just purely logistics? Like 400 is just too much?
Well, at first, I was thinking it'd just be 100, 150. I was almost thinking like, if you've looked through it, the first 2 chapters, the first chapter is really a little bit about sort of the prehistory of the line, everything that happened up through like the first launch of the toys, I don't really talk about the comics much, but I mentioned that and talk about the marketing guys and how Playmates got the license and work all the way through up the early concept designs. And then chapter 2 is really about everything you want to know about how toys are made. It's really, I should say, used to be made, because they really don't quite do it like this anymore. So that was my main goal. And then I was going to do like a third section that just had a smattering here or there, maybe another 50 pages of random stuff. But the more I found and the more I discovered things, I was starting to realize that I had at least some material for almost every single subline that the Turtles had. I think there's only 1 or 2 I'm missing. I know the Coil Force from like 1995 or 96 maybe. I'm missing. There's nothing in the book on Coil Force. I think there's 1 other. But other than that, I had some material for every single subline. So I was like, well, let me just do the first 2 chapters like I was planning. And then I'm going to go year by year and just, put together what I was thinking before would be just a smattering of the entire line. I was going to do a smattering for every year. And actually, there's stuff I had to leave out of the book that I just didn't have room for. And once I started writing it out, and I was, just doing this in Word and throwing the pictures on there and starting to write and figuring out what I wanted on each page, it soon became apparent that somewhere right around 400 pages was going to be good. And I knew, like, from a coffee table sized books that I bought, that, that would be a good number, a nice substantial book, but not sort of ridiculously thick. And so, I just kept writing, and I knew, you see at the end there, I've got this behind the scenes pages with a bunch of photos of me and my crew and some of our visits and things we did. And I was like, well, as long as I get to 390 something, I'll just fill it out at the end with however many pages of behind the scenes that I need just to make it an even 400 pages. Yeah, so those are honestly some of my favorite pages, because, for me, that's 3 years of memories with some of my best friends in the world and the interesting people we met and talked to. So those pages are really special to me.
The nice thing about this, like most coffee table books, it's very visually driven. You can pick it up and flip through at any point and go, oh, what's this? And then you all of a sudden look at the clock and an hour has passed or something, because you're looking at all the different kind of captions. You're really studying some of the images. And these are like high res images on stuff that you don't get to see. And I should say, I saw some chatter online about, is this a visual guide to collecting? Is this every figure that's come out, kind of like an encyclopedia? This is like, I don't know how you would classify it, but I find it like a very cool, rare look at process. Like you said, you talked about how toys used to be made at the beginning. This is how Turtles were made. And you get to see basically relics of history. Like every image in this book is kind of like a holy grail on one level or another. If it's not like the prototype or the test shot mold for a figure that you recognize and had as a kid. It's the sketches and the drawing and the process with the notes and the memos and all that stuff that really kind of tells the story of how everything got to the shelf. And I think that's unique amongst books out there, because you could probably find any line and say, oh, there's a collector guide of that, and see all the figures packaged and some variants and stuff. But you don't get to see something like this. Was that the goal at first, just to go kind of like prototype and like rare behind the scenes stuff, or did it just evolve that way?
No, I always, so to kind of go back to what you're saying, like how do I define? I call it an art book.
Okay.
To me, it's a book of pop art. Popular culture art. It's not, it's not your art you'd hang on your wall. Of course, maybe some of it is. If you find some package art, you could hang on your wall. But it's like the next step beyond Andy Warhol. You know what I mean? It's like he did that pop culture art. Well, this is pop culture art that was ephemera that was generated to make these toys. And so I really do consider it an art book, because the guys that did this were all artists. I mean, some of the guys that did packaging art right now are doing fine art and having galleries and things like that. The sculptors are just unbelievable. One of the sculptors I know is right now doing a sculpt of Billie Eilish's head. And it's just, you just look at it and you go, I don't even understand how you can do that to make that thing look exactly like her. Like, it just blows my mind that these guys are so talented. So I definitely wanted to highlight the artistry and the talent of all the creative people behind it. And, like you said, there is an encyclopedia type book already out there that a guy put out earlier this year. And, and those are I don't want to diminish it by saying they're not hard to put together, but they're certainly not of the caliber of effort needed to do something like this, because I had to do tons of research and calling people and cold calling people and traveling all over just to meet these people. So I always wanted it to be that. I mean, like I said when we started, that was my Star Wars collecting prior to any turtle stuff as well. I mean, pretty much my Star Wars collection here is probably 90% of that type of material, prototype material and things like that. So in my engineering and toy background, that was always what I was interested in. So of course I wanted to make a book that interested me, and I was hoping that it would obviously interest everyone else as well. And, if I'm honest, I was a little worried before it came out. I'm like, man, I'm kind of afraid that people are going to get it and they're not going to like it, because they're going to go, oh, I was just looking for a book so that I could match up my accessories with all my figures, and why don't you have pictures of everything? But I don't think I could have been more wrong. So the feedback I've gotten has been pretty fantastic. So I'm really glad that people are liking it and that they're enjoying it. It is a little different, like you said, than a lot of the collector books that are out there.
I love it, man. And you go through what comes out in each of the lines, and while you might not have representation of all the releases, you've got a lot of representations for each line, and like each like wave by year and each subset that gets released. So it's pretty thorough.
It's very comprehensive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like Jay and I talk about with the documentaries and shows that we do, I don't like making documentaries that are strict retelling of history. If people want to know the history of a toy line, they can read a book. They can go to Wikipedia. They can search for hours on YouTube. There's lots of great stuff out there. But I would rather take a unique spin on something and find that thing that's never kind of been done, or do it in a very different way. And I think that's what I like about your book the most. Like, it's familiar, but this is a whole new way of seeing all this stuff. And it's infectious. Now, Jay and I, we love turtles. We grew up with turtles, but we also know there's so much turtles out there that we don't know. Video games came in, like you talked about at the beginning of your book. We age out of it. We go into different things, but then we come back into toys. I was curious about, when I started going through the book, at what point is my knowledge of turtles going to fade off? And it was right around page 94. So that meant there's about 300 pages for me to learn about.
Page 94.
It's like, yeah, it was right around 94, 96. So it's only a quarter of the way into the book.
Like 1990 then, like 1991.
Yeah.
About. Okay.
Like really the
first 2 years and you're done.
Even at that, that's pushing it. I think for us, I think we were into the first maybe 3 waves, and then
So here's page 100, Jay. This is where we're already getting into other stuff.
So, you guys can say that, but I'll tell you, when I started this back in September of 2017, I knew nothing, almost nothing. I mean, my foray into turtles prior to that, I'm a little older, so it wasn't a thing for me as a kid. Where I really got interested in them was they were around when I was in sort of high school and then college, and I got into it because of the video game. If you guys remember the stand-up 4-player video game. That was in the student center at my college, and we played the hell out of that, and I loved it. And I'd come home, and occasionally one of the cartoons would be on, and I'd do my homework while it was on, and then watch. I was into Darkwing Duck mostly, so I watched a lot of Darkwing Duck while doing engineering homework. So, but occasionally some turtles too. So yeah, when I started in 2017, I didn't even know. I wouldn't even have been able to tell you beyond 1988. I kind of knew the core characters, and that was probably about it. So I was learning a lot as I went too, which was a lot of fun. Just be going, oh, what is this, and to find things that I thought were completely normal, only to find out, oh my gosh, this isn't totally normal. Like, there's an April figure. I'm not sure what page it's on, but I think it's in 1992 somewhere that it was in the Toy Fair catalog, and she's painted in all green. I'm trying to see if I think it's right over there on my shelf. Not all green. There's a green one that was released, but there's a one where she's yellow with green trim that was shown in the Toy Fair catalog, and that one was never released anywhere. And I just had it in a bin of some stuff I had gotten from one of these people, and I had no idea it was some weird April, and it was just in there for like a year, and eventually I pulled it out and posted a picture. Somebody's like, "That's odd. Where did you get that?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. That isn't a normal April." And then I found the catalog photo and put the two and two together and go, "Oh, this was one that they were maybe going to release as an alternate paint and never did." So it's things like that.
You're the guy. You're the guy that says, "Oh, I just found it in a box in my attic. I swear, the Holy Grail was there all along."
Yeah,
it does happen, folks.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't just happen though. It was a lot of work. It really is, and it was a lot of fun too, though, as you can see in those behind the scenes in the back. So.
Now, was it daunting going into like a whole new line that had been out for 30 years by the time you start, really?
Right.
You had 30 years of history going into it. And, I don't want to use phrases like gatekeepers or anything like that, but it can be pretty daunting to start a new line and not really know the community that much. And then all of a sudden decide that you're going to do something like this.
Yeah.
Did you experience any pushback from the TMNT community, or they're like, "Oh no, this is awesome, come on in"? And, I don't know, maybe it's different. Maybe it's different because you're a designer and you come from the industry.
No, it's actually quite funny. I'll tell you a little story about like my first putting my toe into that community, right? Because I came from the Star Wars world, and so after that first visit, I was able to buy some of the stuff from that person, and when I got home, started basically didn't know what I was looking at there, and just purchased some things. And then when I got home, I started going through it and going, well, what is this? What is that? And pretty soon discovered that I had 3 of the unreleased Warriors of the Forgotten Sewer line in that lot. And I didn't know at the time that they were unreleased, but I got home and started looking things up, and I'm like, where are these? I go to the TMNTtoys.com, and they're not listed there. I do some Google searching, and I find out, oh, these were unreleased toys. So then what I did is I was searching on Facebook actually to find information on these, and I found somebody posted about the Mike Knight figure, which is Michelangelo in like some medieval armor. They posted about him on some forum. I think it was the vintage TMNT Toys group on Facebook. So I went onto that thread, and it was like at lunchtime, and I was at work. And I went on that thread, and I said, "Oh, I have one of these." I was just like, I knew I was kind of teasing people a little bit, and I knew I'd get some pushback, and people would be like, "No, you don't have one of those. That was never released." And I was like, as I was playing a little bit, all in good fun. I wasn't mean about it at all, but I was like,
you know
yeah,
what?
I do.
You come from Star Wars. You should know better. Because if there's one community that's fickle and does not like being toyed with, it's those Star Wars folks.
That's true.
And here you are stirring the mutagen in a whole nother line.
Yeah. So
all right, what happened?
I posted that, and I was like, people were like, "No, it was never released." I said, "I know it's never released. I have the prototype of it. That the original thing that was used for the for the catalog photography. And people are like, a few people were like, no, you don't, you're lying. And I'm like, well, I'll go home at lunch and take some photos. That part was real. I didn't have the photos with me and I was at work. And so and some people were like, okay, well, I'll wait and see, show me, they're like, kind of prove it. And so I went home at lunch and I took some snapshots and I posted that one up there. And people were like, oh my God, that does look real. That does look legit. And then like later that afternoon, I posted the Spellcaster Splinter as well. And I said, I have this one too. And so that was kind of my introduction. But like, as soon as I threw the proof out there and the photos, instantly everybody was super nice and super like interested. And there was no doubts or nobody there going, oh, you faked them. And there was nothing like that. It was a really great experience. I've really enjoyed that community a lot. That community is quite a bit younger than me, so it's definitely different than the Star Wars collecting community, that's for sure. And both have some pluses and minuses, but I really have enjoyed it a ton. It's a very, very friendly and helpful community, that's for sure.
Now, with 400 pages, you said there's stuff that you couldn't get in here. What didn't make it? And are we going to get a volume 2? What would be dependent on getting more material? Or is it just a shut door? This is it. Enjoy it.
So let me think through some of the things that didn't make it. Of course, I've got, for all the lines, there were sometimes I had to choose between putting a picture of the first shot of the hard copy in there. Sometimes I was able to fit in both, like the Toon line. I think I have first shots and hard copies for that whole line. But some of the other ones, like I think some of the Cave Turtle lines, I had to take out some of the hard copies. I think I didn't quite have room. I know there was the Military Mutant Battleship sketches. There were 2 of those in the book, and that was the one I was talking about. That was like the last minute ad, like 2 weeks before we went to print. I was like, Chance, we got to add these battleship sketches. These are awesome, and they were never made. And so I think that's like in 93 or 94, right at the end of the chapter. There were more than 2 of those. I was only able to fit 2 of them in the book, but there were 4, 5, or 6 different sketches. So I picked the 2 I liked the most. I've got like tons and tons of packaging concept stuff that I couldn't fit. I've got a lot of packaging concepts for the Jim Lee line, showing different poses of the figures for the card front that they didn't pick. Lots of packaging stuff for like the pizza tossing, some of the mini mutants packaging stuff. So that's probably, I'm trying to think if there's a whole lot else. Little things here and there, but I don't think it's quite enough stuff to make another 400-page book. And I think a lot of it would be somewhat repetitive. If you've seen a first shot of this figure and a hard copy of this other figure, do you really need to see the vice versa of that? How compelling is that? I think for that stuff, maybe a website might be better. However, I do have another idea for another book. And probably the biggest set of stuff I could not fit in here was unreleased concept art. There's like 3 sketches early on in the book from some of the designers, Jim Lawson from Mirage and Ryan Brown, and I forget who the third one might have been from. But I literally found hundreds of these unproduced character sketches. So 99% of them are black and white. There's a few that they colored, but
still,
yeah.
Oh my God.
There's like a Russian. Well, the Russian bear is one that's in there. That one's in the book. Russian, Berinsky or something he was called. But there's a guy that's like made out of a fire hydrant. That's one of them. There's a wolf character. There's a crow. There's a snail. Like just all these sketches of these characters that
Jay and I talk about all the time how wacky the turtles get. And while Jay said at the top of the show he's not a fan of the crossover licensing, I love the diversity that they got to explore with the characters. It's like the Turtle Power documentary, which I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah.
With all the Mirage artists talking about all you needed was a regular leg and one sort of weird leg that was kind of mutated and attached.
Yeah, there's so many that are like that.
And any character could exist.
And almost none of them
had that.
Almost none of them have a shoe on both foot. I've noticed that. There's always one foot is like the animal foot, and the other foot is like a shoe. But anyway, my idea is, and I sort of pinged this out to a couple of the artists. Specifically, I had Jim Larson do one for me, but I sent him one of the sketches that I found that he did. Now, these are all just photocopies. I found a couple originals, but most of them were just photocopies from like the marketing guys had them in a binder, things like that.
Sure.
But my idea was, well, why don't I get some of the original artists, whether that's the guys at Mirage or whether that's some of the toy designer guys that did concept sketching. Why don't I'll make photocopies of these and I'll get them to color them. So the coloring will be modern, but the sketch will be an original 1980s, 90s sketch for unreleased toys. I just feel like as a color book, it would be much more interesting than a black and white book. So, and I thought that'd be a cool way to, have those guys sort of flesh out and continue their work. And of course, if any of them, I would try to get the original artist to do the coloring, but if I couldn't find them or they didn't want to, one of the other artists could color it up. That happened a lot anyway. So my idea for the next one, if it ever happens, is to do an unreleased concepts book, literally just sketches. And that would probably only be 100 to 150 pages. But then that would almost no words. I'm thinking just literally let the images speak for themselves, maybe do a foreword that I would write with explaining what the book was and what it's all about, and just let the artist highlight. It would be the
cool
focus.
It would be cool to hear a little bit more about the artist. So if you're going to have any words,
some
have
bio.
a little background on these people, because I've just finished a series on video game cover illustrators, because nobody really knows who's done the key art for the boxes that so many of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s, that was the decision maker, right?
Yeah.
So who are the people that did all those iconic covers? And so the whole series I did is like discovering them. And there are hundreds of people out there that have created, pop culture relics that we don't know about. So the more that we can share that stuff, I think is great. But I'm down for a concept book.
There's some crossover too between those artists and the Ninja Turtles artists. I don't know if you knew that. Greg Winters. Greg Winters is one of the big ones. He did some pretty. Yeah, I've got one of his pieces over here right on the wall. He's
Lottie da, thanks for coming on the show, Chris. You want to flaunt the things you've got?
Ninja Turtles piece. But he's great. And
you come from the Star Wars collecting community, I can tell already. Look what I got. You don't.
I just love his artwork. It's really great. And he didn't do a lot of packaging. He did a lot of the Jim Lee stuff, which I mentioned before, all those concepts, alternate pose pencil sketches that I found. He did those, and he did some art for the dinosaur line for Ninja Turtles, like the 1996, I think, line of Dino Turtles. He did some artwork for that. And then I think Joe Fiera, I think also, I don't know if you know that name, he did some Ninja Turtles packaging and also did some, where did he work? Coleco? I can't remember. He definitely did some video game art packaging too.
That's crazy. Well, Jay, what questions do you want to throw at Chris? Because I'm just obsessed because I've been doing nothing but reading the book. So I apologize for stealing the spotlight for a good.
Oh, that's okay.
Minutes.
Yeah, I just have a couple fun ones, Chris. So I'm a Star Wars guy too, and I think we're all pretty much around the same age. We're not going to give away each other's age, but it's safe to say I think we are. So what drew you to Turtles from being so into Star Wars, especially if you didn't really grow up with the cartoon, you kind of saw it a little bit later? What was it about Ninja Turtles?
Well, it was really finding that stuff by accident the first time, which was a total shock and surprise. I didn't know those things were there, and I didn't expect to find them. And the more I just started learning about it and understanding it, I always kind of liked them. It was always something that was sort of in the background a little bit of my younger years. So it wasn't that I was totally oblivious or just didn't care at all. But as far as the toys go, it was never a thing. But man, the aesthetics of them, I just sort of fell in love with. And, a lot of the Paint Master hard copies and things, and if you don't know what that means, then grab the book and read it. You'll find all about what that means. They're so much more vibrant even and pop more than even the production toys do. These hand painted ones and like metallic paints and like massive amounts of detail on it. Like as a great example, if you go to 1994 to the Wild West line and look at the the Chief Leo. The details on his on his vest are just like astounding. You know, and you don't get that in the production toy, but then the sculpt itself is amazing too.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I just kind of, like I said, I came from the prototype collecting in Star Wars. I'm a toy designer, and the artistry of the line, I just really kind
Jay's
of
favorites
fell in love
right
with.
there.
There's the Trek line. Yeah, nice.
So
but it's even cool to see the Trek stuff that didn't get released. That would have been
Right.
cool.
Yeah, that green Leo's pretty awesome. I like that one.
And I'm really curious too, Chris, just to follow up there. If you had to pick like your absolute, the turtle figure that you dislike the most, is there one that sticks out for you that you think is just ridiculous?
Just ridiculous.
Like one that's like how? Why did they make this? Like you have to look in your own book. That's great.
I'm just looking at like the checklist. I'm going, which ones were totally ridiculous.
So for me, I mentioned at the top of the show, just for me, like the idea of the Star Trek ones were just out there.
Well, I mean, you're right on that. The farmer ones were like, I just don't get why you'd make farmer ones. Like that's just really kind of crazy to me. The stretch turtles too. I don't know. I mean, I know that's a thing and that's a toy, but they're just like, leave that to Stretch Armstrong. Like he's the guy that does that right, But the birthday turtles too are not some of my favorites. They're pretty
good, yeah.
I mean, that I would probably have to pick that one. I'm looking them up right now.
What is that?
I'm gonna say sports ball turtles.
Oh, see, now those I love because they were just like ball. Yeah,
I don't know if that was like. Yeah, I don't know.
So the clown and Mike, the magician, from the birthday, the magician one's not too bad. He's kind of cool. He's got like this, that like evil Dudley Do-Right, or not Dudley Do-Right. Who's the bad guy?
Snidely Whiplash.
Snidely Whiplash mustache, yeah. And he's got his top hat. He's pretty cool. But the clown in the birthday ones.
I know that one. Yeah,
and the party reptile with the pointy cone hat. That just really not very good. Those I would probably pick those even over the Trek. I think the Trek's okay with me. They're not the best, but man, those birthday ones are pretty awful.
Here's something I kind of just want to show people. This is from '92, just like that rock and roll party tour van bus thing with the turtles just rocking out on stage. Seeing stuff like that and any and all the other playset stuff that you have in here, Chris, is just phenomenal, man. Like I just look at that stuff. I'm just like, oh, that is so wicked. I can imagine playing with it. Even the stuff that they abandoned early on for the sewer playset, that kind of Grayskull lookish, the face in the middle there. Like I get why they didn't do it, but like that's a cool playset. And all the other sets that they had planned to go for the other movies, like those are wicked too.
Yeah.
Basically, go to radplastic.com and have an amazing experience, folks.
Yeah, the playset for 1992, starting on page 169, if you want to just look there real quick. That thing, I was very fortunate to find. So let me back up. A lot of the playsets and vehicle stuff, I believe, was done and engineered in China, not in the U.S., because I found very, very little of that kind of material here. And I also believe that probably most of it was trashed. But what I did find was stacks and stacks and stacks of file photography of this stuff. So most of the stuff you see in here from playsets and vehicles, with very few exceptions, is all from old photographs. And the coolest one is the movie 3 playset, which was like 3 stories tall. It had a subway in the middle. It had imagine the little side rooms are as big as the sewer playset from 1988. And there were, I don't know how, I put every single picture in the book that I had of that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 13 pictures, 16 pictures of that thing. And some of them in unpainted, early form, and then a final painted version, which was literally some Polaroids, flapping the Polaroids to make them come to life. So yeah, that was probably, I think that was one of the most amazing things that we found, because a lot of the other stuff, like even the Pop Can Racer, which is like literally on the next page, people knew about because it was in the Toy Fair catalog. So nobody had seen the prototype before, because Nobody had ever shown pictures, and the catalog was just an artist rendering. So it was cool to have that, but at least that was something people knew kind of maybe was out there. But this massive playset was a complete surprise to me when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that they took this prototype to this level, and I, it never got made. So it was really cool to be able to put like 5 or 6 page spread in there of that playset.
That's wicked.
I'm hoping that some great customizer person takes those photos and builds one. That's what I want to see. I want to see that thing in all its glory and real life brought to life, because I think you could do it pretty well from these pictures.
Yeah, there's a lot. You've given us a lot to work from. So that's the challenge to everybody out there. If you build dioramas and like to do custom stuff, let's talk. We will figure out a way to get you in season 2 of Action Figure Adventure if you recreate one of those play sets, because that is wicked. We're having a vote here. It looks like for the Trolls turtles as being some of maybe the worst stuff.
Those weren't too great. But those are really hard to find. So like they're kind of pricey now because they probably didn't sell that well, so they probably didn't make that many, and therefore that makes them, rare today. And there are some collectors that really pay a lot for those things. So, but yeah, they are pretty bad.
Your designing comrade Chance was chiming in the chat saying that you're very much last minute, which is hilarious.
Yes, I was making changes. I mean, I hate to say this, but even after I printed, I found some typos, which bugs me a little bit, but I don't know. Probably most people will. I mean, I read this thing 10 times and there's still typos. I don't even understand how that happens, but
you're so close to it.
I was making him make changes literally like, I need this by noon because the lady that is sending it to the printer is on vacation tomorrow. And so she has to get it by noon today, or we have to wait another week and a half to get it printed. So I was like, but yeah, Chance, you're listening. Thank you. You're the man. You made this thing way more awesome than I could ever even have imagined. I mean, he just knocked it out of the park, and I will give him 100% credit for that cover. I mean, as soon as he sent me, from the very beginning, I wanted to make a square book because I didn't want to have vertical pages where I knew I wanted to try to fit on some pages, like 4 images on each page. So I didn't want to have a typical 8.5 by 11 book and feel like it was squished left to right. So I said from the get-go, it's going to be square, 10 by 10, 11 by 11, somewhere in there. And we were going back and forth, and I had some other friends do some concepts for the cover, and nothing was really quite going well. And he pitched me this, and I'm like, there's no question. That is the cover. There's no doubt. So and then he just knocked out the logo out of the park to put that in the round circle in the middle. I mean, the cover concept was just sheer brilliance, and it was 100% Chance. So thank you.
I love it, man. Awesome. I love it. Again, everybody that's listening, check out Rad Plastic. Go to radplastic.com. If you live outside the U.S., there's a button that you can click to get a quote on an international order. There's a button on the other side for everybody that is domestically. Chris responds really fast. He'll get it to you. I know he's fulfilling orders right now for everybody that had been a longtime supporter, but he will get it to you. And trust me, you want this in your collection. Jay and I talk about the importance of investing in things that are other than figures to help the knowledge base and to help support other people in the whole culture. So this is one that gets my complete thumbs up. Jay, do you have any other questions for Chris about the book or Turtles?
Yeah, just a personal question. Is there a figure, Chris, that you can think of that doesn't get as much love as he or she deserves? Like a kind of an unsung hero figure that needs some special attention, maybe.
Hero figure. I'm just looking around to see which ones I like the most. I don't know. I'm really partial to a lot of the April figures and also the Warriors of the Forgotten Sewer line. I think those generally get a lot of love, though. So you know what I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with the Star Trek. especially and I will put a caveat on it. The green Captain Kirk with the crossover tunic.
Oh yeah.
That figure is like, I know it was unreleased, but that's the figure that makes me love the Trek line. If that didn't exist and it was just because I don't know if you look in the book, I think I explained what happened was they actually had unique sculpts for all 4 of these figures. And at some point, in order to do cost cutting, they decided, hey, they're not all that different except for Kirk. why don't we just use the same body and just paint them all different and put different heads? And then the only other exception to that rule was Spock's hand. They did this with Spock's hand. But other than that, they're all exactly the same. And the Raphael was the original one that they chose to make the other three the same as. So,
Okay.
they're originally all different. So, I really like that line when you put the green tunic Captain Kirk in there. So I'll go with that. I know I
Very
said earlier
cool.
the Trek was kind of lame, but I also really like the green tunic Kirk. So.
And Rob,
Awesome.
you like a lot of weird ones too. Is there one that stands out for you as far as like that doesn't get? I know you really love Rat King and stuff like that, but is there one maybe even more obscure than that? Kind of stands out.
Because my collecting and really playtime with them ended so early on while it was so popular. Stuff like Scumbug or Wingnut and Screwloose are pretty kind of well-known entities out there.
Yeah.
That's as probably as obscure as I got, but those are kind of fan favorites. I like Monty Moose, probably because
I
I'm
do too.
Canadian, but I just think he's a cool character, and I just really like the look of him.
I'm kind of generally
What?
partial to the mammals for some reason. I like Sandstorm,
There you go.
PandaCon, and
Yeah.
Walkabout, and
Usagi
Monty
Yojimbo
Moose. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Scale Tail, Scumbug, those are not all my favorites. I don't know if that's just I kind of lean towards the turtles and then the mammals. So.
Yeah, Scale Tail's kind of cool, but I think it's because some sort of G.I. Joe thing going through my head that I like him for. Like he's like when Cobra Commander in the movie became a snake, all of a sudden he became like a part of the Ninja Turtle line or something. I don't know.
What?
I'm reaching to make it work. So, Chris, do you want to stick around to answer a couple questions from our Patreon?
Yeah,
backers
sure.
and do action
Yeah.
figure spotlight. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me give a shout out to our Patreon backers. That's Tim, Nathan, Bill, Matt, Jay, Danny, Ryan, Chris, Scott, Billy, Ben, Kyle, Nelson, Rodney, Nico, and Adam. And special high five to Nico for joining us, our most recent Patreon. This week, our question comes from Danny. He wants to know what action figures had the best commercials while you guys were growing up. Which ones stand out? I'll give Chris a second to think about that, and I'll go to Jay. Jay, best toy commercials growing up.
Star Wars with that weird Kenner disco music that wasn't even close to anything in the films. That or He-Man, because that He-Man. Every time you heard that, man, it just made me laugh so hard, but it was so wicked. But I liked the Star Wars. I liked watching the kids play with the Kenner figures and kind of make their own little adventures on screen. It was really cool, man.
Chris, for you, which toy commercials still resonate that you had growing up?
Sorry, knocked my phone over.
We're live, folks. We're live.
We're definitely live. You can't cut that out. Well, let me first say something before I answer that. In my course of doing this book, I also found a lot of the guys who worked on the commercials, and one of them had really nice copies of almost all of the Ninja Turtles commercials. And I've been posting those about once a week on the Vintage Ninja Turtle Facebook group. So if you go there and search #commercials, you will find really nice copies of maybe 50 or 60 vintage Ninja Turtles commercials to watch. So there's a plug for that. I'll probably put them on my YouTube page at some point, as long as I don't run into any copyright issues. I don't know if I will or not, but I'll try probably. But for me, it has to be the infamous Wampa, Star Wars Wampa. Do you guys know or remember that commercial? It's a kid playing, the Wampa, the big white beast from Hoth that swipes Luke across the face, right, and kills a Tauntaun. Well, the kid is playing with the Wampa, and apparently the sound that the Wampa makes is Wampa. So he's going with this toy, Wampa, 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 Wampa. So it's just so corny and cheesy that the sound the toy makes is the name of the toy. But so that's got to be the classic that sticks in my head. That
in typical Lucas fashion, in typical Kenner fashion, they probably didn't get to see any live footage of the Wampa,
yeah,
so they had to just kind of make up something.
Wampa,
right?
Wampa. Yeah. Or some marketing guy had the brilliant idea, we need to get the name of this toy in as much as possible. Let's just make that the sound that he makes too. So it could have been
funny.
that.
I gotta look that one up. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's clever marketing. For me,
I think that was on YouTube.
Masters commercials. I mean, the slime pit, man. Seeing the slime go through that skull head onto Beastman or any character that was there. That was awesome. The Kenner superpower stuff was really great because it was animated like the Super Friends show. But hands down, the cartoons or the commercials that stick out for the toy lines, it's G.I. Joe and Sergeant Slaughter just barking at the camera nonstop.
Yeah.
He just becomes the spokesperson for all things G.I. Joe from a certain point going forward. And I mean, I was into wrestling at the same time too, so it's just like, here's more of the Sarge, and it just got me pumped for the toy line. And I really didn't collect G.I. Joe, but he got me into it. I think it was from that point on that I started having a few figures. And to have a face, a real live person, connect with the line itself and have their iteration, that's what did it. That's what did it.
They started to do that live action stuff. I think around '88. The live action G.I. Joe stuff where all the commercials were actually actors. And the reason you started collecting Joe is because he scared the crap out of you. He yelled at you. He's like, I don't know how I'm going to start doing Hulk Hogan by mistake. Like, go buy those toys.
I was going to do the same thing. I was going to be like, come on, brother.
Come on, brother. Wait, that's not him. Wait.
You know, the actor that did that still goes to conventions in full getup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Believe me, if we get to Joe Fest, we'll be interviewing him.
He was at a Comic-Con or a comic convention here in like South Carolina a couple of years ago. Just had his own booth, Sergeant Slaughter booth.
Well, what do you mean
That's
by
awesome.
Actor? I thought isn't Sarge a real guy?
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't shatter dreams on this show, Chris. Come on. That'll bring us to the action figure spotlight of the week. Jay, do you have figures with you? Is it one? Do I have to pick a number? How's this working this week?
I have a bunch, but I have one. We already talked about it, but I still want to. I definitely want to show it off. So it's a vehicle set that I had. I purchased a big Kenner mask lot in 2001, and I got this particular vehicle that I never had, but it was incomplete. The mask stuff is notoriously hard to complete because there's just a ton of things that can go wrong and fall apart. And our good buddy Chris at Treehouse Collectibles in Toronto, man, that store is rapidly becoming my favorite because he has such pristine stuff. He's like, "Hey Jay, I got a Rhino for you," and I'm like, "Okay, let's see it." So I'm going to show you an absolute 10 out of 10 mint condition Rhino. Like, it is literally
glossy.
The chrome is perfect. Everything is perfect. All the tires. That's not the best part though. So I got to complete my Rhino.
From Mask, for everybody listening that can't see, might not remember from Mask.
This is the best part, is that the artwork, I actually might get this box graded because it is so perfect.
Wow.
So there is the actual box from Rhino. And again, anyone who knows me and knows Rob knows our love for the Mask line and how just incredible that toy line was in general. So I'm happy to finally have a complete Rhino. So thanks, Chris. Treehouse Collectibles.
That's awesome. I'm going to go next because I'm sure, Chris, you've got something crazy to show us by collecting standards.
I haven't pulled anything out, but I can.
Okay, pull something out while I talk for the next minute or so, and that'll buy you some time, okay?
Okay.
So my figure of the week has a story connected to Action Figure Adventure. And when we visited Mondo, I got to see a bunch of their 6-scale stuff. And I had never seen in person the turtles that they had done. And on screen, we basically focused on Mikey. But when I got back, I had to get them all because, well, we talked about them. So I had to show them now as cutaways. So I'm going to basically showcase Donatello from Mondo. What's great about these is that they color match the skin to the Playmates figures. They come with interchangeable heads, so you can do the red bandanas if you want. And they come with the turtle tails here, which are also removable because in the Mirage comics they had. So it's a good mashup between the Mirage stuff and the Playmate stuff. And they all just look super cool. As much as they kind of look similar because they're 4 turtles, they each have a distinct personality to them. And it was hard figuring out which one I wanted to, pick to show you guys. But Donatello, the look on his face, just, I don't know, I'm sold. He just looks ready for action. It's a cool figure, and they're fun to pose. They got a great base. It's just awesome. And I had to pick something TMNT, of course.
The comic book stuff, man, is the best. I think that's You know that the iconic TMNT painting that's on the Ultra game for the NES.
Oh,
I love how they all have the same colored bands, and I love that the first. I would love to get NECA put out a set a couple years ago like that with the 4 turtles from the comic, but they were colored and they all had the red bands. But those Mondo ones are just killer, dude. Right on.
yeah, I love them. So we've given Chris some time now. You heard his headphones coming off and on.
Sorry.
No. It's hey, we're live, Chris. This is how we do it. Expect the unexpected. I can't wait to see what you're going to showcase for us. The case behind you has been opened.
Yes, it has been opened.
Uh-oh.
What has made its way to the stage? The
Okay,
sir.
so I picked. People ask me a lot. What is like the number one Ninja Turtle figure you have? That like if you end up, if you were going to sell everything off, what would be the one you would keep? If everything else was gone. And I picked this one. I like the aesthetics a lot. It was in that very first lot that I found, so it feels to me like the start of my journey on the Turtles as well. But that one is this guy.
Whoa.
The Wizard Splinter.
Oh, man.
So I mean the sculpt is just so dynamic with the beard. Sort of, I'm trying to get in front of the camera here, with the beard, kind of flowing, and you can see the robes kind of flowing, and this is a hard copy, so you can see it's pinned together.
Damn, man.
So that's this is resin, handmade, hand painted.
Chris, was that one that they produced? Did that one ever come out?
No, this one didn't come out. This is likely the one that was used for the catalog photography, although I can't match it exactly because the pictures are too small. With him, I've got his spell book.
Oh, man.
Pretty freaking awesome.
Oh,
and also his staff, which is really cool. This like hand over the ball. And then also, this is the original sculpt for the staff. So this is wax on top of like a plastic rod inside of this. And then
wow, dude.
The sculpt for the book. Got to be careful with these because the sculpts are very fragile. And then one other thing, which I have in the book, but you really can't tell in the book. If you read it, you'll realize that there's 2 stages to sculpting. Usually they do a clay first, which is really rough, and then they cast that and shoot that mold in wax, and then they put all the details into the wax. Well, this is the clay book for the figure, but you can see how much smaller it was than I about to said what was produced, but it wasn't. Neither of these were produced. And I like this one. You probably can't see it very well, but on the back it has like Splinter's face, and the regular book just has bindings on the back. So, I think this guy's probably my favorite of all the figures. Blue's my favorite color too, so I love the blue. I've always been kind of partial to Splinter as well, and just the dynamic nature of the sculpt is just amazing. So. There's my pick.
So cool, man. I'll tell you right now, going through that book and seeing the Forgotten Sewer subline was the coolest thing for me.
That's really one of my favorite sections. That whole subsection.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, so I was and I love Masters, right? So now we're talking Sword and Sorcery Turtle stuff. Yeah, I like 100% in. So,
and I was always been a big Lord of the Rings fan. I mean, I read those books when I was in grade school and like loved them ever since. So. That line always kind of resonated with me. And then like, it's pretty much a Gandalf, right? It's Gandalf Splinter. So like that just really resonated with me from like a childhood love as well. So that's probably the one. If I had to sell everything off and I could only keep one, or like people ask, you're getting on a spaceship because the world's going to blow up and you can bring one figure. Which one would you take? That would probably be the one I'd grab.
Very
incredible.
Cool.
Incredible.
Well, that'll do it for another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. Chris, let people know where they can get a hold of you. Not your address, because you might have too many people coming after that figure. But where can they reach out to you on social media to say, hey, I love the book, and where can they get the book? Tell us.
Yeah, so the book, you can get it at radplastic.com. You can email me at chris@radplastic.com. You can find me on Facebook. I do run that prototype group, TMNT Prototype Collectors. So if you want to see a whole bunch of cool, and people are posting stuff there that isn't in my book, other things that have been found in other places. And sometimes people sell stuff there. So if you're interested in starting to collect this stuff, that's a good place to both learn and maybe find some things for your own collection. So you can find me there and connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, chris.fawcett. You can find me there. I'm posting like, so a little while back, I did this thing where I started taking some like super close-ups of some of these things, because most of the ones in the almost everything in the book is like a full body or maybe torso up. But I was like, I kind of like these. I kind of like the camera aesthetic where you do like the aperture trick where the background's all fuzzy and like the foreground's crisp, and so I was taking some shots like that. I'm like, I'm just gonna put these on my Instagram. So if you want to see some cool, like more artistic kind of shots of like close-ups of Splinter's face here or some other figures, I'm posting about one of those a day right now, just for fun. So
Wicked. You
can see some of those there, some alternate shots of some of these things. So, and I'm not on Twitter, so don't even try me there.
I discovered that earlier this week while I was trying to promote it, but that's okay.
Yes.
So hashtag you and Rad Plastic. Jay, where can people find you, and what are you up to, and tell us what we can find when we find you?
Do you know what just occurred to me? It's to promote the TV show. Every week I say, go on and check out my toy channel on YouTube, which is awesome. But yeah, we have a TV show on Jinx Esports across Canada. Every Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, you can see Action Figure Adventure Season 1. Check it out. And my YouTube page is just Jay Bartlett.
But Jay, there's 2 Jay Bartletts on YouTube. I'm confused. Which one are you?
There is a sorcerer, Jay Bartlett, who performs exorcisms, and he has like thousands of videos. That's not me. I'm the less popular Jay Bartlett who plays with toys.
Okay. that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I'm Rob McCallum. You can find me at Rob McZob on Twitter and at TikTok, at Rob McCallum Films on Instagram, and I am on Facebook as well. You can find me there. Action Figure Adventure is a place where you want to find out everything with toys, dollies, our shelf life, because we are shelfers forever. I want to thank again our special guest, Mr. Chris Fawcett of Rad Plastic, and so much more for not only creating the book and his good buddy Chance, who took a lot of time designing it, because that's really awesome. It's been awesome having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, dude. It was a pleasure meeting you.
And everybody, go to radplastic.com. Definitely check it out. Buy the book. Add it to your collection. We want to get that concept art book, and the best way to do that is support the artist now with the current stuff. So let's see what we can do to get behind Chris. Until next week, we always end the show the same fun thing. For the love of toys and the warmth of scarves, take care of yourself.
And each other.
Because playtime is the best time.
Stop adding stuff on the Stop adding